Welcome everyone to GAF Lockdown, our regular interview show where we educate ourselves for the struggle to come. Today, we are going to be talking with members of Palestine Action about the recent campaigns against the Elbit and the fight for free Palestine. But before that, let me remind you about what GAF is and how you can get involved. The Green Anti-Capitalist Front is an alliance of groups and individuals united by a belief that capitalism is one of the core causes of the environmental crisis threatening us all. And if we do not act soon, the cause of the crisis will fall on the poor and the powerless. If you want to find more about us, you can go to our website greenanticapitalist.org, or follow us on our social media on Facebook and Twitter, which you can also find there. But something very important to remember is that GAF is a front. Anyone can organize under the GAF banner as long as they agree with the aims and principles outlined in the website. So although there's already many GAF groups all around the country and even abroad that you can message to join, you can also just organize your own group or take direct action under the GAF banner. And we will really encourage people to do so. That's literally the best way to go about it and the most secure. And with that out of the way, today we are not going to have our usual shoutouts because I haven't had time to prepare them properly. So I'm going to instead self-promote a bit and say that GAF is going to be participating in the Anarchist Book Fair 2020, which is happening online this weekend. We are participating in two panels or talks. One of them will be, I think, on Saturday at some point. We participated in a panel around the topic of ecofascism together with other people. And also on Sunday, 8 p.m. UK time, I'm going to be doing a workshop to talk about the Crash Social Center, and generally the experience of running a social center during the pandemic and the lessons learned from it. So if you want to kind of like learn a bit about it and discuss how this kind of spaces can work, come along. It will be also streamed on Twitch and recorded just like this video will be. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't want to like waste much more time, so I'm going to start by introducing our guests today. So Hada and Rich, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Huda, and I'm a British Palestinian. I've also got an Iraqi background, and I've done Palestine activism for quite a while. Recently came together with other activists to find Palestine Action, and I'm
Rich. I've done solidarity activism for a while, and also animal rights and environmental activism. And in fact, until quite recently, I lived in Glasgow and hung out with Glasgow GAF for a while.
Woo! Nice. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
So first of all, because I think having a bit of background it will be useful for the discussion. Would you tell us a bit about what's the current situation in Palestine? What has been kind of like the most recent developments? What are kind of like the most recent news that are coming out of the area? Of course, this is a super big and broad topic, so like just kind of like the most recent like stuff that you think may be relevant for people to know.
Yeah. So just to give a bit of historic context to it, and especially seeing as we're kind of based in the UK as Palestine Action, the UK has been complicit in what's been happening, the colonization of Palestine, for basically over 100 years. In 1917, the Foreign Secretary of the UK issued the Balfour Declaration, which was basically for the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people from Palestine, and called for a Jewish homeland in Palestine, where 97% of the indigenous population, the Palestinians, were not Jewish. So this eventually led to the Nakba in 1948, when the Zionist militia, which were backed by Western countries, went into Palestine and, with brutal force, ethnically cleansed and forced out more than half of the Palestinian population, which was over 750,000 Palestinians, destroyed over 450 towns and villages, and basically forced people into the corners of Palestine, of historic Palestine, to occupy it. And this, this system of ethnic cleansing, apartheid, and oppression over the Palestinian people continues very much until this day, with little signs of the situation on the ground improving, or Israel, at all coming to terms with ending their apartheid regime over the Palestinian people. And we see in the West Bank, which is just west of historic Palestine, where Palestinians are subject under brutal occupation. So, when children want to go to school, they have to go through checkpoints. If they want to go a mile down the road, they have to go through military checkpoints. Many people have been shot at these checkpoints. Women who've been refused to be allowed to go to the hospital, who are in labour, are forced to give birth sometimes at these checkpoints as well. And they constantly face the threat of home demolitions, where Israel sometimes gives them, a month notice and says they have to demolish their own home or pay the cost it costs Israel to destroy their home. And this is all to make way for the ever-expanding illegal Israeli settlements, which we just see are constantly illegal and international law, with little repercussions from international governments. And the situation in Gaza has gotten much worse over the years, because they've been subject under a brutal blockade for over a decade. Just to get basic supplies in is a real challenge for the people of Gaza. So they're limited to 3 hours of electricity a day, and they've been marching to the fence, which has entrapped them under this brutal siege, and they constantly face bullets where they're being sniped down and killed just for protesting for their freedom, for their basic rights under international law.
Right. So I don't know if you want to add anything else, Rich.
No, not at this point. Yeah,
that's all right. So now that we can understand that, why was Palestine Action started, and why do you think a group like this was needed right now?
So a few of us, or quite a few of us, have been involved with various direct action specific companies, but specifically Elbit, for a number of years. But it was felt that we needed to coordinate that in some way nationally, and bring together, in much the same way as the GAF banner is, that groups and individuals could come together and take action. And we just wanted that. But I think crucially around that, there'd been actions for maybe 6 or 7 years before, but they were sporadic. Still obviously a good thing. They'd often shut down factories and brought that together. But we felt that we needed this group, and we also needed a group that was specifically around direct action. So there's a large, obviously, Palestine and various groups, but those are using more, your letter writing, you're appealing to people. And there was a crossover between those groups and some of the direct action that was happening. And we felt that the time now was that basically lots of us were pissed off with that, and we couldn't be bothered with that. We were seeing it wasn't working, and also it wasn't what we thought was the right thing for now. So we brought together a small group of people who've been involved in some of these direct actions at factories, and said, okay, can we try and bring together a group with the focus being on direct action, civil disobedience, and on this, and also to bring a complete focus and a desire to win. Yeah. So again, lots of us have been involved in these factory occupations, and we might do them once a year, or if we were really brave, twice a year. And we felt that the company, specifically Elbit, the most evil of the arms companies, were kind of building that in as a kind of, okay, they could accept that. It was a day here, a day there. And in fact, quite oftentimes there was nobody even arrested. So we felt that we needed to focus that and have a focused campaign against them as a company, and start to win, because nothing's really worked to date. And group together at this time.
Yeah, I guess just to add to that is just the urgency of the situation, and the fact is, a lot of us have been doing activism for Palestinian, for Palestine and Palestinian human rights for years now, and I just getting increasingly frustrated at just relying on petitions, letter writing, lobbying MPs, etc., especially in a UK context where we know they've been complicit in this for over 100 years. And they're not going to change because we appeal to them, especially when they continue to profit massively from the oppression of the Palestinian people. And what we need is a platform for people to take power into their own hands and just say, enough is enough. These factories should have never been here in the first place. And we're going to take it into our own hands to shut them down, and to, shut down Elbit systems, and also then move on to all companies which are complicit in Israeli apartheid.
Yeah, I think that sounds absolutely amazing. Could you maybe briefly mention what you understand direct action to mean? Because I think it's a term that gets used a lot, and that many of us care a lot about. But I don't know, maybe some people, people have different ideas. So what does direct action mean to you? What do you think is important for the pro-Palestine campaign?
For me, direct action means whatever we do, envisage the future that we want. Yeah. So we don't appeal to anybody else. We don't appeal to government. Yeah. So some of us, political stances, we have no time for government or the state generally, but we don't want to appeal. It needs to be direct. It needs to envisage what that future is going to look like. So in our context, this factory to not be there. So any of our actions must be conducive with that, and must shut the factory down for the day, must cause them financial damage, must cause them disputes that will mean that they are closer to not being around. And I suppose the only other side that would balance that slightly would be that people might have seen that we've used lots of red paint as a blood, which is a well worn and tested thing that people have used in the past. To us, that also brings attention to the blood of the Palestinian people and brings that to people who wouldn't have seen it otherwise. But for me, mainly, not asking anybody else to do my job, or I'm not going to do direct action against a government telling them, please get rid of these people. I'm going to say, like Huda just mentioned, take this into our own hands. We have the power as people. We don't have to wait for anybody else, and we'll shut them down.
Yeah, and I don't think I can add much more to that. I think that's exactly it. It's just about taking the power back into our own hands and not relying on a government which has been, or a state which has been, complicit in this for over 100 years and benefits from it so much to make the changes for us, or try and appeal to them through different ways or through a third party to invest, to investigate them, or do these different things where it's, we can't rely on the people who brought this in the first place to be the ones to stop it. And I think it's got to that point where direct action to us means directly going and shutting them down, stopping them, and causing them financial damage until they are forced out of this country, and then hopefully many other places force them out as well, so that they can't operate and they can't continue to profit from the murder of Palestinians. Because Elbit systems, they market their weapons as tested, when it's battle tested or field tested, because when they bomb Gaza or kill Palestinians, they're also testing their weapons a lot of the time. which gives them this advantage, you know, in the global arms trade. They're used in war crimes, and it's just despicable that these, you know, things can continue. And it's for ordinary people to go out and take action to stop it.
Thank you so much. So talking about UK and other similar countries, what role do countries like UK have in perpetuating and allowing the occupation of Palestine to continue? Why do they have this role? Why do they continue to play a role in it? And why it's important for people in countries like UK and other, you know, countries like this to support the anti-colonialist movement in Palestine?
Yeah, well, I think the UK is quite a specific case and probably the most complicit country out there, alongside the US, of course, just in terms of literally being the ones to colonize and make way for the Zionist militia to force out the Palestinians in the first place. They import weapons from Israel. They're exporting weapons from Israel. They're making deals with these very companies like Elbit Systems, multi-million-pound deals with them. And actually, even just recently, the UK police are now trialing out Elbit's technology. And they have, you know, 10 sites across the UK. So for the UK government, they're directly profiting from this oppression. And even, you know, we look at pension funds, they've got billions of pounds in companies like Elbit Systems. And we look at universities, invest over 400, UK universities alone, invest over 450 million in these. A lot of it is very much part of the capitalist system. And the fact is that whilst they continue to profit from it, that's what they're going to prioritize, not human rights, not justice, or not international law. And that's why I think it's crucially important that the people recognize that and say, you know, we're not going to rely on these people to make the change. We have to do this ourselves.
And why do you think it's important that people organize here to you know, to support the Palestinian people and oppose the occupation of the Palestine?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me as a Palestinian who's grown up in the UK, I see myself as extremely privileged, you know, especially compared to family members and other people who are from Palestine and stuck, you know, under Israel's apartheid regime. And I think that speaks to everyone, you know, who are in, you know, Western countries in general, especially the UK, that we have privilege compared to people in countries which have suffered because of the actions of countries like the UK. And I think and to oppose racism is to see everyone in the world as equally human. And, you know, if we had Wales, you know, a part of the UK be treated like a live testing site, we'd be out there destroying these companies without a question and putting ourselves in the way. And I think, especially because our country is profiting so much from it, I think for people to use their privilege, to put themselves on the line, to take action, to stand up for those who are oppressed in Palestine, to stop the weapons where they're being made, which is in the UK. You know, the UK is the biggest, I think it's the biggest exporter or importer of arms, and behind the US. And I mean, like, you know, it's a tiny country compared to, you know, the US. So you can imagine just how prominent this industry is in the UK. And whilst we benefit from the privilege, we have to remember those who are suffering because of our privilege at the same time. And as human beings, we have a responsibility to put ourselves on the line, because Palestinians, you know, when we put ourselves on the line here, we might get thrown around by police a little bit. We might be held in a police cell for 24 hours. But when Palestinians go and march, they get shot in the legs, and they actually use bullets which are designed to explode in the leg. So the only way to treat it is for the leg to be amputated, or they're just killed on sight, or their families are killed in front of them. And, you know, I think if it was the other way around, we'd be begging for people to take action in a similar way. I think it's crucially important that we use this privilege to take action.
what are the main challenges a group focused on Palestinian liberation face here in the UK?
Manchester's. I think there's a number of challenges. The main challenge is that that we are in a country which Israel calls one of its strongest allies, and we know that the government is massively biased towards Israel over the Palestinian people and over oppressed people's rights. And I think many of us have experienced attempts to slander activists who are speaking up for Palestinian human rights or detract away from what's actually happening in Palestine. And I think that's one of the main reasons as well. Another reason why we set up Palestine Action, because we're done having to try and defend ourselves and speaking up on human rights and justice and respecting international law. We're done with being silenced or put to the side. We're done with the media silence, with refusing to cover us whatever we do, and that means that we just have to take the power into our own hands and can't rely on other people.
And one of your main campaign right now will be against Elbit. So could you tell us a bit about this campaign? Why did you choose this particular company? What actions have you taken so far?
Okay. So without going into too many specifics about the company, they're the most evil of the arms companies. So for us, it was kind of an easy choice, and in a way, what we found, and sort of covering your last question a little bit, is that we've brought lots of people into the movement from environmental activism, from other areas, because they kind of get it, producing so much bad shit all around the world. In Palestine, Trump's wall, for instance, they use surveillance on that. Recent contract to get surveillance of migrants trying to get into the UK. Basically, everything they do is pretty evil, and that's our main time. The other reason, and kind of what we touched on before, is because they are in loads of places here. Yeah, so for us, it's important that local groups form, and local groups can have a target of action. And like we've mentioned before, they've got 10 sites, 4 factories, these evil weapons, and that gives people a focus. And also strategically, having this one company can bring many people under that banner for us. When we've looked at the actions, we've also tried to make sure that we are inclusive in terms of the actions, so that they can include all kinds of people. Yeah. So yes, not necessarily by our design, but principally most people in Palestine Action, and I say this as a guy, most are young females who've come into it, but we also have some from more solidarity, Palestine solidarity campaigns, who have become frustrated with the inaction there and the letter writing, and have got involved in this. But we've designed actions that we didn't want to be like we'd been before. Some of the actions were high profile, breaking into factories, occupying it for days, which is we've still done that, and we still think that's a great place. But we have also wanted to kind of go, let's annoy them constantly. Let's throw red paint over them. Let's graffiti them. Let's use those different actions, yeah, that people can get away with, and take photos and send things into us, and never be not need to take responsibility for that for their own reasons, whatever that is, but also have those high profile actions for people who are fortunate enough that they can put their selves and stay. So having a wide enough things, but also I think mainly encouraging people and saying, for us, it's actually not that difficult to go and throw a red paint on them, but it causes them a real pain. And within a few weeks of us starting, and by just throwing red paint on the outside of the building, by going in and occupying their office, Dominic Raab had a meeting with the Israeli defense minister to talk about us and what we've been doing. So it shows that, you know, that this works, and we wanted it to be that. And for us, that sustained pressure is really important. So numerous of us have been involved in, like I mentioned before, done actions that were once a year. And to be honest with you, went away feeling a bit proud of ourselves. Oh, we've done this, aren't we great? Yeah, and relaxing. But that meant really nothing for them. They built it into their profits and losses. So for us, it's about sustained action that can be low level, and some people can take more things, but we want to carry on encouraging that, hitting all their sites as well. So I think maybe the other thing that we've worked out is the companies that are associated with them. So people who they rent offices of, who are, you know, massive evil capitalist companies, the asset management companies, and we're saying that you can't house them. If you house them, you're a war criminal as much as they are, and certainly some of the actions have involved that. But we've also tried to be creative, and so we're not massive fans of demos, but we've called two, and those demos have had associated direct action and using things like fire extinguishers to spray on their building during that. And that's been our main thing, is to try and do that balance between more high profile secret actions and smaller scale, equally important actions that people can do really easily and inclusively.
And in terms of keeping constant pressure, what kind of like structures and procedures and practices have you set up in your organization to kind of try to support this long-term durability and not, you know, burn people out?
Yeah, so we're trying to, you know, we've got people who are signing up across the country, and we're, you know, massive belief of, you know, when some of us are on stricter bail, we have other people who go out and take action, and, you know, vice versa, and we support each other through that, and by just having, you know, gaining more and more people who are willing to do actions, and also spacing out the actual, you know, some people don't want to risk arrest, which is, you know, it's to each person to decide, but to say that doing a direct action doesn't always have to equal things that people have done, you know, in the middle of the night, throwing red paint over Elbit, and haven't been arrested. So it takes away that element of just every action equals arrest, and that means you can only do, you know, only very few actions. So actually spreading it out across the place. Our structure is we've only been launched for about 2-3 months, which is incredible considering, you know, the amount of actions we managed to achieve against Elbit systems. But we're also calling on other groups who aren't necessarily part of the Palestine Action banner, who are now also joining in direct action against Elbit systems. And so we work as a network where we have people who can join as individuals, and once they're kind of vetted and go through the induction, they'll be put in touch with like-minded activists who've also joined in their area, who they can then meet face-to-face to plan actions. And we also have it so that groups who are already existing can also just join the network of Palestine Action. Everyone has an equal say. We have working groups as well, where there's people who are, you know, who've got a bit more time and specific skill sets who can then apply themselves of Palestine Action, you know, things we need to run nationally. So things like media, press, resources, and other things like that. But also, just similarly to Green Anti-Capitalist Front, we're also saying to people, you know, you don't need to go through all of that. You don't need to do the induction. If you want to go out and throw red paint on a site, just send your pictures in to actions@palestineaction.org, and we can post them as well, as long as it's in line with our aims and principles. You know, we're happy for those things to happen. So there's many different ways that people can be part of the kind of Palestine Action banner, but the main thing is that people go out and do it.
I think I'd just add to that as well, that in terms of I I think what you're driving at there in terms of care for people. So yes, there's been follow up. We do follow up calls after actions and stuff that we can listen to people. We've had fortunate enough that where me and Huda live, we have a space where people can come and hang out with us. And we've had, you know, really simple things that I think it's easy to forget when we try and design things too much to be, or how can we listen to people? How can we be regenerative, or whatever those buzzwords are? But actually, for us, I think people would say in our group, the things we've done, like banner making sessions, where we basically sit around all day. We share food, and we listen to each other in that way, and in the kind of like, you know, really simple ways. Having a fag with someone outside, that kind of, you know, slightly cheesy youth work type of thing, is actually where people will have those conversations and stuff. I think more so than designing stuff where for some of us it's uncomfortable to sit around and talk about our feelings. I think it's happened more organically, and it's felt more like a community rather than an imposed therapeutic kind of relationship.
Yeah, and I think even things like arrestee support, you know, like we are going to, people have been generous enough actually to, you know, we've fundraised quite a bit since we've launched, especially during our actions, and you know, whether it's financial support for arrestee support, or you know, in most cases it's other activists waiting outside the police stations, and having that, you know, we've got a big support base for Palestine Action, and you know, who are part of the group, and I think that's, you know, a crucial bit is the social side of things, and knowing that actually, you know, whatever happens, we're going to have your back.
I think that is the other thing I would add on. That is the key thing, has been that difficult balance between bringing as many people in, but also recognizing, one, that we're a direct action group, and secondly, that sort of slight fear of infiltration. But I think we've tried to navigate that really carefully, so that we've grown and got lots of people, which, as Huda mentioned, means that more people can do things, both in terms of support, but also people can take a step back from action. And I think that's been part of our key strategy, is about this, can we get as many people in as possible so they can do that.
Internet's gone, is it? Should we just talk some more?
Yeah, I'll try and see what's going on, and yeah, if you have more to say, if you could just continue.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, since we've launched, we've got, you know, if people here are in different parts of the country, who do want to set up groups or join Palestine Action, then, you know, more than welcome to do that, and we encourage you to do so as well. I'm sure we can send in the link somehow to where you can join. I'll put it in here. So this is links to join up to our induction. Our next induction is tomorrow evening, and we try and have them weekly. I guess the main thing for people who are listening is to kind of understand the gravity of the situation, and the fact that, you know, we are in the 21st century with apartheid very much alive in Palestine, and it's not a foreign issue. It's an issue which is directly caused by the UK, and we all have a responsibility to take action and support in any way in any way possible. So please do support and join Palestine Action. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, awesome. That's what I was going to say while my comrade is trying to sort his sound out. If anybody on the call has questions, it'd be great to hear what people have to say.
Can people hear me?
Yes.
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 Now,
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I don't know. So apologies for that. But yeah, I think I was pretty much done with my questions. Oh, the only last thing I wanted to ask was what has been the response of Elbit and of the police and the state repression so far. So yeah, if you could talk a bit about that.
So do you want to go?
Yeah, so Elbit's response predictably has been not at all. Nothing.
They have upped their security in most places, right?
They've got loads of new security guards. And I think the other thing we'd say about them is that, generally speaking, over the years, they've never prosecuted any of us successfully for any of the actions we've taken. And certainly I'm happy to say, I'm doing this. I lived in Kent before, been involved with shutting their factory there many times. Never did they prosecute him once, despite the fact of us causing criminal damage in front of the police and occupying it. The police actually, we filmed them saying to us, "Don't worry, police vans don't mean arrest. You can leave whenever you like." And so there's obviously some agreement between Elbit further up. So we don't know. We'll see what happens. Some of us are in court this Monday for action when we shut down their factory and caused apparently up to £450,000 worth of lost earnings and damage to them recently. In terms of the police, yeah, other than the fact we just spotted a camera pointing at our house, which we're pretty sure is a police camera because they've had vans out here. They arrested me and Huda before the first demo as we were walking to it, and arrested us on, like, I think between the two of us, like 9 or 10 different things, and asked us lots of questions about various things. And we obviously are on bail, and they've been around that. They've been knocked on our door. But actually, it hasn't been oppressive in terms of that response. But
I think one of the other things to say about the police specifically in their response is, you know, compared to other direct action protests, is the brutality of the arrests. You know, like throwing people on the ground, repeatedly lifting people up and down when they're on the ground with their hands tied behind their backs. I mean, it's just disgusting to see, like, you know, the brutality that it's being faced. And it's not just, you know, myself as a kind of you know, brown Arab. It's also treating the white activists very similarly because they're campaigning under the Palestine banner. You know, they treat them almost the same, and it's really you know, disgusting to see. But I mean, we don't expect much more from a police force which represents this state, which has been complicit in this for over 100 years, and, you know, they're just acting as agents of the state basically. But as well, we do know that there's obviously, you know, things happening higher up, with Dominic Raab having this meeting with the Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs discussing this. There's also been other articles where Israeli ministers have said about the Israeli embassy in London dealing with this, managed to stop us. But, you know, we are fully well aware that the government and the police don't like what we're doing. But I guess that's exactly, you know, the more that they react in this extreme way, and hearing news like the Israeli ministers trying to stop this really shows us that we're going right in the right direction. You know, the more and more they try and suppress us, the closer we are to actually winning this. And we know that they're running scared, and that's why they're trying to use these tactics and are discussing this at such a high level is because what we're doing has a massive potential to win and then move on to all companies complicit, and just make it so unfavorable for other companies to profit from the oppression of the Palestinian people, or any oppressed people for that matter. You know, Elbit systems, it's not just Palestine, it's Kashmir. You know, they literally test weapons on unoccupied people, then use them against the occupied people of Kashmir, and in other oppressive regimes across the world. It's like, you know, I might be going on a bit of a tangent here, but these companies are intersectional in the sense that they profit from all different forms of oppression. And I think our response has to be as well, because, you know, other groups as well are facing the same oppression from this state. Other groups are facing the same oppression from Elbit systems. And the way we win is by binding up together and becoming stronger and stronger as a resistance, as a front of resistance against this. You know, until we do win, because we really have no choice anymore.
I would just add on that, Huda doesn't maybe say exactly what happened in terms of the police are fucking racist, right? Yeah, all right. We were on the roof. Huda's a brown young woman. When we're on the roof, she's the only person who was searched there and then, and also had requested when they did that this not be a male checker, and they refused that and said, we don't have any women officers here. There's lots of things like that. There was lots of different treatment to her in the police cells, to others in terms of not access to books and various other things. And as always with the police in this, they try and paint this as a certain thing. So you know, they've got it in their mind that this is possibly kind of like related to Islamist stuff, and it's just horrendous to see it.
Yeah, sadly not surprising, but yeah, always sad to see. So I think that's going to be it for my questions. I will encourage people to come if they can to the protest that's going to happen in front of the court, I believe, on Monday. I'll make sure to share the event on social media as well, and to, you know, continue supporting Palestine Action and join if you can. And now we are going to open the floor for questions from people. And someone is making more of a comment than a question, but in the meantime, other people, please do get your questions in, or let me know if you want to ask a question yourself. But someone was just mentioning that they think that Elbit also sells technology that is used within EU borders. I don't know if you know anything about this.
I don't know about the specifics about the EU borders, but I do know that they are, you know, quite a big part of the border regime, especially recently gaining a contract in the UK to provide drones to surveil, you know, the border and the seas bordering the UK, to basically try and stop refugees seeking safety, you know, in this country, which is, you know, it's disgusting, and it's that actually a lot of the times these arms companies are massively part of the border regime and suppressing migrants and refugees as well. You know, Elbit systems being a key example of that, not only profiting from making complete destruction in countries and amongst oppressed populations, but also then stopping people who need to see it, trying to travel into the UK from being able to do so safely. So they literally benefit the whole capitalistic terms to call it, but you know, this is the kind of reality of it, and they are involved in, you know, as I mentioned before, so many different forms of oppression, and so I would not be surprised at all if they're involved further in EU borders as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you think in the future you'll have other campaigns against other companies, or do you have is there anything already going on in that terms that you can tell us about? Of course, you know, don't expose your plans in front of the state if you cannot really, but you know.
Yeah, I think going back on that is like we're gonna get rid of Elbit, right? Yeah, we're gonna win this, and that's our strategic focus to start with. And by then we'll definitely move on to other companies. And we would say that there's plenty of British complicit companies. As an example, not saying this is where we go, but JCB would be one that their bulldozers are used by the apartheid regime in Israel to destroy Palestinian homes, and they're a company of known British company, but there's many others as well.
So there's a question here. How do you see your strategy working in concert or not with BDS?
So in terms of BDS, so for those who don't know, BDS was a call from Palestinian civil society in 2005 for the international community to boycott, divest and sanction Israel as a means to pressure Israel into complying with international law, human rights. And we basically taken the kind of tactic of BDS in focusing on corporations, institutions, etc., and the idea of boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel. So it's massively a part of that, but using direct action as our tactic to gain that means. Whereas BDS overall is a wide call for for institutional divestment, for the ending of complicity, and ending of corporations who are complicit and profiting from the oppression of the Palestinian people. So that principle is very much a massive part. But we're using direct action to achieve those aims.
Cool. I don't think there's any other questions, and I think you've done a really great job on explaining a lot of these topics, and I think me and I imagine quite others are really excited for the work that you're doing, for the fight that you're taking, and yeah, I would really like to offer all of our solidarity, and hopefully we'll see each other in the street soon. So yeah, do you want to once more just tell people how to get involved with Palestine Action and support it?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just post it in the chat. I think I just posted it before, the link to our induction. We have another one tomorrow at 7 p.m. You can also, if you would like to donate, that would be brilliant. We don't have any bureaucracy costs or anything like that. So literally money does go kind of straight into actions and arrestee support. So we'd really appreciate that. And also, just feel free to go out and take action. Again, wherever you are, and you can email in any actions to this email address. And also, I just want to say thank you to the Green Anti-Capitalist Front. We do completely agree with your message, 100%, and we're delighted to be asked to do this with yourselves and to have your solidarity.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure we'll collaborate further in the future, either as organizations or just as people. The GAF completely support the struggle for freedom of the Palestinian people and of all the other occupied people around the world. And I think we'll see each other soon as well. So with that out of the way, I think we are gonna finish it here. So yeah, I want to thank our guests again, for everyone who came and listened live, and for everyone listening at home later on. For those of you who don't know, the entire recording of this will be uploaded to YouTube later on. And also, we now have an account in Collectiva Media, which is kind of like a YouTube anarchist alternative. And we haven't posted about it yet because I'm slowly uploading all the past videos. But if you are tired of the fucking ads on YouTube, be on the lookout for that. And yeah, also come to the talks that we are going to participate in for the Anarchist Book Fair, and come support the demo happening on Monday in front of the court for Palestine Action. And yeah, follow us on social media to keep updated on everything we are doing. We have some actions we want to post about, but we are sorting a few things. We figure we can do that. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And that's going to be all for me. Thanks so much, everyone. Hope to see you soon. Death to capitalism, death to colonialism, free Palestine. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.